If you haven't heard already, this week the European Union signed a really bad trade agreement with the United States, clearly positioning Europe economically as the lapdog of the US empire. Under this deal, 70% of EU exports to the United States will now be subject to a 15% tariff, up from the previous average of 4.8%. Meanwhile, US exports to the EU, especially cars, will become entirely duty-free, no tariffs. In return, the EU has committed to purchasing $750 billion in US energy over 3 years and claims to be investing $600 billion in the United States. Now, what does this mean? This means that European products will now become more expensive in the US due to higher tariffs, making it harder for European manufacturers to compete and sell abroad, most certainly leading to job cuts and closures. Meanwhile, the US can now sell its products to Europe essentially tariff-free, giving American companies an advantage in the European market. On top of that, the EU is committing hundreds of billions to buy American energy to invest in the US, funneling European money outward instead of local services or green energy investment here in Europe. The clear winner in this is the US. Trump's administration successfully forced through a deal that favors US capital and exports while placing long-term burdens on EU industries. And the losers? European industry and by result European workers, especially in strategic sectors like automotive manufacturing and steel. And despite vocal protests from France, the deal cannot be stopped. The European Commission has exclusive authority over trade policy, meaning no single member state, not even France, can veto the agreement. This powerlessness only underscores how little control member states have under the EU framework. The EU is handing over its industrial and energy sovereignty in a desperate bid to avoid a tariff war with the world's most aggressive capitalist empire. But in a time when the US is an active supporter of crimes against humanity in the Middle East, not that it ever wasn't, and is now committing horrific acts of fascistic cruelty against migrants and its home population, maybe a tariff war is exactly what the US deserves. This way the EU just shows its complicity. And this deal does nothing to benefit the workers on either side of the Atlantic. It is a negotiation between the ruling classes designed to manage competition between imperialist centers, the US and the EU, while ensuring that the costs are paid by the workers. Von der Leyen signing such a unilateral agreement without input from European citizens is also no accident. It is not an error but a feature of the EU system. The French government objected loudly but could do nothing. The European Commission has exclusive authority over trade policy, bypassing democratic national parliaments. This only reflects the broader reality that the EU is an anti-democratic project that purely serves as a central manager for European capital. It strips member states of any ability to resist global market pressures and enforces policies that prioritize finance, free trade, and deregulation over the actual needs of the people. The supposed democratic and peaceful ideals of the EU collapse under pressure from the US, revealing the bloc's true character as a subordinate partner to US imperialism. The European Union is not a neutral or reformable institution. It is a political project of capitalist integration, built on neoliberal foundations and committed to maintaining the global dominance of European and US capital. It is also a symptom of a much broader crisis, in which unelected technocrats surrender to imperialist pressure, bury democratic accountability, and treat working class interests as bargaining chips. To move forward, we must reject the false choice between EU and US neoliberalism. The real alternative lies in building internationalist and socialist power from below, through workers' movements, international solidarity, and the construction of dual power structures that can challenge the capitalist system. The EU will not protect us from the market. It is the market. And as long as it continues to serve as the manager of capital, it will remain as a barrier to socialist transformation in Europe.